Okay, good morning, Paul, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Yes, indeed. There was a post you put out on LinkedIn a few weeks back, which motivated me to ask you onto the podcast. Now, it related to a deal you did, which directly involved the Google founders back in the day, back in 1998. So that did seem like a pretty cool thing to talk about, and a story not many people can tell. Before we dig into that, could you maybe just introduce yourself? And I certainly put you in the category of people that have been in this industry since day dot. So you've seen multiple iterations of what the industry looks like. So I'd love for you to talk me and the listeners through how your career's evolved from the Exodus days onwards, or wherever you feel is like the most appropriate starting point.
My career, I have excellent timing. My career started right when the internet was just, the information superhighway was just starting. And I got a sales job. I had no idea what the internet was. I was a classics major in college. Got to the company, which was NetCom, and it was unbelievable. The energy. It was a startup. It was crazy. We were selling dial-up and lease lines, and it was even before Colo was invented, basically. So did that. Great experience. A couple years later, had moved up to San Francisco, met my future wife, and my friend actually, Joe Harrer, he's over at Vantage. He's been there since the beginning at Vantage, and he's one of their top sales guys. He called me up and he said, Paul, you got to get down here. He goes, this place is going nuts, and we're going to go public. And I was like, okay. So went down, did an interview, didn't even meet with the VP who was supposed to interview me. The HR person just hired me. And from that point on, I mean, it was just the beginning of Colo. They had a small data center, and they were just building their second, which was, I mean, in comparison to today, it was so ridiculously small and underpowered. I had a sales job there and started there in 97, just when the dot-com bubble, the dot-com gold rush was starting. So I have really good timing with fortunate timing. So took advantage of that, moved up to the city, San Francisco, and had an outside sales job and just signed up all these startups. Like, money was flowing. It was such a fun time. I was in my 20s and had a bunch of customers. And then one day in 98, I got a lead from one of our partners, and they said, oh, you need to call these guys from Google. And it was like, we were all like, that is a really weird name. And here we are. And I ended up meeting Sergey and Larry at Stanford. Actually, they showed me their data center, which was in the Stanford lab. We had our first meeting, then we met back at the Exodus offices for the closing meeting. And these guys, I got to say, what I learned was they were so smart. They knew our business model better than we did. They had figured out how to leverage, different things to save money. They knew that power was the most important aspect. We thought it was real estate. They figured out it was power. So they made us book, they made us throw them in extra power. And we're like, oh yeah, you can take all the power you want. It's the space that matters. And then, so I ended up signing the deal with them. And it was a 2-rack private cage with a total of, I did the math, a total of 12 kilowatts. And it was just packed full of like Sun SparcStations, just on top of each other. And then strapped with like those straps that you put on, whatever. And it wasn't the prettiest cage, but these guys, they ended up taking over the entire data center. During the dot-com crash, they still had money, and the scale was unbelievable. I mean, from there, they ended up taking several other data centers at Exodus, and then they went global. I mean, these guys, the scale that they experienced was like nothing I've ever seen. They really rewrote the rules on Colo. I mean, and Yeah, no, it was a great learning experience for me. I never would have thought that they would be the company they are today. I wish I would have gotten friends and family shares. Um, but it was really a great experience to work with that company, and it really had an impact on me.
Were they, as a customer, one of the reasons why you rode it through the .com crash?
I had more accounts than I was one of the top sales guys there. I had more accounts than I knew what to do with. So at the time, I was a little more generous with giving up accounts, and I ended up I basically ended up giving up the account, and another sales rep kind of rode that thing through. I rode it through with other Synopsys and a couple other accounts, but yeah, I felt I was a little disappointed when I saw that they were, how much capacity they were taking. But at the same time, they were so demanding, or that they would suck up all of your time. And they were just tough negotiators.
And certainly looked like you were a new logo guy during your time at Exodus. I can see like 75.
I was definitely a hunter.
Yeah.
I was definitely a hunter. Yeah.
Talk us through from there onwards to today.
At Exodus, we went public. I experienced my first two companies that I worked for went public. And then we went through two Chapter 11s, not one, but two Chapter 11s. And I got to tell you, I learned a lot about Chapter 11. I learned that you don't get shut down during Chapter 11. In fact, our data centers continued to run, but at the same time, nobody wanted to do business with us. So it was a very dark time for the data center business. So I stayed through the two Chapter 11s. It was a great opportunity. It was actually a great job, got promoted. Eventually in 2010, Lee Kessler called me up, my old friend from Exodus, and he said, "Hey, we've got this." He was the head of sales over at DuPont Fabros, which arguably was the pioneer in wholesale co-location. He called me up and said, "We're building, a 36 megawatt data center in 2010 in Santa Clara, and I need a guy to run the West Coast for me." And I was jumped at the opportunity. Lee's a great guy, and that was an incredible experience. I signed Apple on as the new logo as our anchor tenant, and I knew the guy from business school, and just great fortunate timing there. And then we ended up filling it up with Microsoft and Dropbox. They took the rest of the 36. Then we built another annex to it. It got it up to 51. And it was all Microsoft, and did that for 5-6 years, and then took some time off. They had a management change there. Then I went to Colt Data Centers, which was a great experience. I love travel. I love traveling to Europe and Asia and so forth, South America as well. And it was an opportunity to run US sales for an international company. And so we were very successful. My job was to bring on a couple new logos, hyperscale, and we brought on Salesforce in London and Oracle in Tokyo. Got to go to Tokyo like 4 or 5 times. A lot of people don't know this, but Colt Data Centers actually put Inzai on the map. If you're familiar with Tokyo, Inzai became kind of the hub for data centers. And they were really the first company to go there. Then I got another opportunity to come back to the DuPont Fabros kind of family tree with Hussein, and I went to Cloud HQ. Fantastic experience. Ran US sales, and that's when data centers really started. The scale was Hussein was building 100 megawatt data centers back in 2019 when I went there. And he knew that he actually predicted that data centers were going to be 400, 500 megawatts. And he was actually right. So I went there, and then did it like 2 years there. Just wanted to kind of do my own thing, and took a little time off. You introduced me to Dearmid. Thank you. Went to ESR, got ESR as a client, and then I pulled on another client in Texas that's building gigawatt scale data center behind the meter, and brought my brother on from a 25-year career in Hollywood. He was an actor. You can go IMDb, Neil Hopkins, see what he did. He was on pretty much every show. He was always a villain. Very good actor. Hollywood's brutal, and it's gotten tough. So it was a perfect opportunity. He, leaves basically a very difficult, downward trending industry, comes into the data center business at absolutely the best time you could possibly come into the business during this AI rush. And he's just knocked it out of the park. He created Hot Racks, which is very popular on LinkedIn. It's a satirical newsletter. Anyways, we're a fractional CXO company. So for developers, there's obviously a ton of new developers coming on the scene. And a lot of them, they're lean and mean, and they need people that know they can plug into with somebody like me with 30 years of experience and contacts doing these deals. Rather than hire full-time, you can, as you scale, you can basically rent me and Neil. And Neil's just a phenomenal marketing arm. He does he'll do all the marketing for the clients, one-pagers that we specialize in, and we market it. And we've been very, very successful with that. We've expanded it. We're now in Germany. We have a client in Germany. Actually, my old boss, Falk at Colt, took a job at Portis Data Centers, and we're helping them with securing clients for their Munich site and Hamburg and Luxembourg. Very interesting platform. And then we started PowerPath. We met this gentleman, Darren Rosenlund. He's from Utah. We met him. He reached out to us through Hot Racks. He has all these connections to solar BESS campuses, basically, and projects. So we created PowerPath. Our goal is basically to shorten the path to power. I mean, these GPUs cannot, and AI cannot wait, 5-10 years for power. It's just, we can't do that. So we are out there on the front lines, basically solving the problem, helping to solve the problem of the supply and demand problem. We're bringing in projects and being very creative and bringing in renewable energy that has never been used before, like solar. We even geothermal solutions, obviously behind the meter, wind farms, et cetera. And we're, packaging those up in different parts of primarily the Western region. And we're helping developers, and we're helping to develop these projects. So it's going extremely well. We're getting a ton of interest on one of our projects in Idaho. It is a massive project. It's got 1.7 gigawatts of solar and BESS scheduled, and 900 megawatts will deliver next year. And then the balance of the 1.7 will come in 2027 and 2028. But it's going to be up to 1.7 gigawatts of solar BESS. We've got geothermal that they are hopeful that could be 500 megawatts of geothermal. They're testing that right now. And then we're working with Idaho Power to secure, get on the grid, have a grid connection as well. However, Idaho Power their entire grid for the state is 3 gigawatts of capacity, or 3.5. Our project alone is like more than half of that. In addition, it has hydro too. There's a planned dam for like 2032 that could produce 5 gigawatts. So those are the kind of projects that we're out there trying to bring to life, and it's been going extremely well.
Yeah, it sounds like you're involved in a lot of interesting and varied things from that point of view. On the PowerPath side, are you primarily looking to? Could that be marketed out to both third-party developers as well as hyperscalers? Both anyone who essentially develops a data center.
We're talking to several hyperscalers right now. They're evaluating the site. We also have several large operators that are reviewing and evaluating the site. So and then we also have some private equity that's looking at the site. And yeah, so the advantage we have is we can not only build it and help develop it, then we can bring the customer in. Nobody can provide, that all-in-one solution that I'm aware of. So we're doing that right now. We're doing that with Idaho. We're doing that with a couple other projects. In Texas, we have one, and but I'm learning a ton about solar BESS, geothermal. I mean, with nuclear being what, who knows, 5-10 years out, we've got to find other sources of power for AI.
We are seeing, an evolving customer landscape and provider landscape, I suppose, with new like real estate developers such as like the likes of ESR, who you're working with, coming into this space. How would you describe that? Like what you're seeing from customers today, like especially like maybe some of the differences between what hyperscalers are doing, the neo clouds who are coming in, AI entrants. How would you summarize that?
The landscape has changed so much so quickly. The cloud growth was much more predictable. It was growing, but it was, everybody would wait around for a demand signal from, the capacity planners at the hyperscalers would send a signal. Okay, we need 100 megawatts or 50 megawatts in this market or whatever. And it was very centralized. I would say the capacity was in Ashburn primarily, and the tier 1 cities only. Tier 2 cities were and tier 3 even were not much smaller. Now what you're seeing is with AI, I met with a hyperscaler recently, and he told the site selection guy, he told me, I said, have you received a demand signal for this market? And he goes, we don't have demand signals anymore. He goes, with AI, the fire hose is always open, it's always flowing. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes a lot of sense. I mean, they are going to take, it's voracious. They're going to take any power that's reasonable that they can get. I mean, and every day, or they get less and less choosy about, I need a grid connection, I can't do behind the meter. And now they come back, a month or two later, and they're like, actually, this looks much more attractive now. So it's moving incredibly quickly. A lot of different people are coming into the industry. It's great for the industry. There's just so many new people coming from the power, energy side that we never were exposed to. I come from more the kind of developer operator side. You've just got all these different sources coming in, a lot more investors, a lot more private equity folks, just so many different solutions. Like if you go to a conference, like we went to 4 conferences in 6 weeks earlier this year, and just the energy is just the energy, and all the energy companies. I mean, it's hard to keep track of all the different companies that are jumping in and trying to be successful in this industry, all the different cooling solutions, and you name it. They're all there, and they're hungry, and they want to meet, and it's really fun. I mean, conferences are so much more. I mean, other than PTC, which was always a great time, a lot of meetings. It's like every conference now is like PTC.
Really is. It's a fascinating time for the industry, isn't it? There's just so many new parts to it. I also mentioned, there's on the provider side, that's an evolving landscape, and like using ESR as an example, a company that you've been doing some work with, like more traditional like industrial developers who are moving into space and maybe JVing with an operator or developing themselves and maybe have ambitions to operate in the future.
Just on LinkedIn alone, I'll get a couple different projects a week in the US, a couple different developers, a lot of folks that, own a tremendous amount of land, like in Texas or New Mexico. I mean, New Mexico suddenly is like a serious hotspot, and for growth. And no, I mean, you're seeing, and it's great. I think it's great for the industry. At the same time, you really you need to flush out the details about the solution. It's great you have land, but what's the potential here? You got to think big. How can we make this a 5 gigawatt campus? That's what we're thinking. How can this ever be a gigawatt campus, let alone a 5 gigawatt campus? Does it have the potential to do that? And you really need very, very detailed oriented executives at your firm that look at every single detail. Another one in Texas that I've seen basically build outside the city limits. If you don't build outside the city limits and in the ETJ in Texas, for example, your project, basically the city has much more authority to push back on your project. So I have seen some where I asked them, are you in the ETJ? And they had no idea what that was. And the company I'm working with down in Texas, I've never seen a company just so prepared and so on top of every single detail with these projects. They're not easy to get off the ground. They're extremely difficult to get approvals for and permitting, let alone getting the power. So, you have to be very careful. And, it helps to work. You got to work with people that know what they're doing. But we're not going to put our name behind a project that's going to fail. We're only going to work with winners. And we've been good at, we've been very successful at picking the winners.
Yeah, I suppose credible competition for the industry is good, but I do hear a lot about the fact that there's a lot of PowerPoint presentation projects that just simply aren't going to get off the ground ultimately. And some of that is problematic because it can be clogging up the interconnection queue to get on the grid and other aspects like that. Can't it? So
it's got to be clogging up the grid. There just simply can't be that many projects. There's got to be some projects that will never get off the ground. I don't have to worry. Well, I do have to worry about that. Its impact. We don't even think about the grid now. We just think, okay, we got to engage with the grid, but we're looking, our expectations are 5 years, to get anything of significance. I'm talking a couple 100 megawatts. And as you know, you got to have over a gigawatt now to get a serious look from a hyperscaler. Okay,
you mentioned hot racks a couple of times, and you're obviously wearing the merch. Can you tell us what that is?
My brother, he has a master's in fine art, actually. So very talented artist and very creative. He just came up with this concept, hot racks, and in his devious mind, and he was looking at a lot of the news, and the news, as you know, the stories are very dry. And they're extremely dry, and everything's so serious. And so he decided to make a newsletter that would also be a way of kind of promoting OLH Ventures and now PowerPath. And so it's basically a satirical take on the current data center related news and AI related news. And then he creates these are all, custom created by my brother using AI.
Okay.
They take him hours to create. He spends a lot of time on this, but we did this I think it was for the Yada show in Vegas. So this is the mascot, and it's getting a lot. It's kind of has a cult following, I have to say. It's and these t-shirts have become very popular. So we're going to put one together. He's going to create one for PTC. So we'll have one down there. But no, the newsletter, it's a newsletter. The newsletter is growing on LinkedIn. It's got several thousand followers, but nowhere near as many as you have. But we're growing, and it's a great tool. We've gotten quite a few leads directly from it, but we try not to. We're not. It's like a soft sell. We're not in your face. We're not in your face kind of guys.
Great, yeah, and I'm all for anything that injects a bit of personality into the corporate world. So I enjoy it.
Exactly.
I'll finish on a question that I always end on, Paul. So if you had to pick one topic that you feel is under discussed at the moment? Something that the industry needs to confront. What would you say that is?
Time is the most overlooked aspect. Everybody's talking about a shortage of power, but not enough people are out there trying to solve the problem. We need to solve the problem. I mean, there literally is not nearly enough supply for the demand that we have. And, until nuclear occurs, and we have those SMRs, it's going to be tough sledding unless we start to figure out these renewable aspects. We have tremendous amount of solar, different renewable solutions, and there's just creative ways where you can generate power. But yeah, I would say, that definitely the time. I mean, and as for time, I think, time is everything. Timelines are everything. Everybody wants everything yesterday. And if you can be just a slight bit faster and deliver quicker than your competitor, you're going to win every time right now.
Really appreciate your time. Always a pleasure to catch up and talk to you, Paul. Hope to, I will see you in Hawaii in January.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.